remember. And I think on that night we went to Potsdamer Platz and to Brandenburg Gate, my wife and my daughter, and I was carrying her on my shoulders. And we just saw the people crossing over, we saw the people dancing on the wall, and the atmosphere was just fantastic. And then I think 2 days later there was a border crossing opened via Schlesisches Tor in the Kreuzberg district, and that was announced in the newspaper, and we went there with our daughter, and then we were waiting there with a big crowd of people for the wall to be eliminated, and it took about an hour or so, and they came there with the trains and then just moved up those big concrete pieces of the wall. And then after that, when that just happened, everybody applauded, and that was just a good atmosphere. And for me, it was just a big change in my life and in the life of my children, that this unification was positive. As other speakers just mentioned it, that families could be united again, and that my children wouldn't experience the same problems that I experienced before because of the war. And my memory is that when I was a small child, when I was 6 or 7, the war was built, and my aunt was living in Schöneweide in the Treptow district, and she just came to our place in Steglitz once a week to play with me and to have contact with me and to support my mother. And this was just over, just on one day. And I remember that my aunt was also in our family house in Steglitz on the 12th of August, and there were rumors that the wall would be built. And my father and my aunt were very nervous, and my father said, "But stay here and don't go back," and so on. And then my aunt just went back, and she said, "Well, nothing will happen," and so on. And then I couldn't see her for a long time, and we just really had to travel to Hungary and to Bulgaria to see her. Although it was a 20-minute drive from there.
You know, the big street to the Brandenburger Tor. I always thought, do you think that it will happen in your life that you can drive this street until behind the Brandenburger Tor? And I said, with all friends of mine, we all had the same opinion. And my mother and the whole family, no, we will not, it will not happen during our lifetime. And the 9th November was a big surprise. The country thought something happened what we never had thought and hoped. It was unimaginable. And so it was a feeling, if you're happy, it was a happiness for such a lot of time after November 9th. It was not only the night from the 9th of to 10th, 11th, it was weeks after the 9th of November where it was like a dream. It was so involved. It was full of feelings that the world changes now. We didn't know how, and we didn't know if it was really necessary. Everything changes. It was a feeling that a lot of things will happen, and I think all the people thought at first only positive. We only had positive feelings. After some time, we get to know the problems, but the first weeks we were really out of
It wasn't only a feeling of happiness in the East, because they were actually the incarcerated people for some people. At the same time, it was a feeling of liberation for the rest of them, because they could now freely travel into the GDR. They didn't have to stick to the prescribed transit routes. So it was a double liberation, both for Easterners and for the Westerners. It had different impacts, different prospects, but it was a rare joint feeling of euphoria.
Now, we are almost 20 years later, and I think that the walls in the head, they are getting less and less, also depending on the generation. For the younger generation, this is not such an issue as for an elderly generation. In history, this was like a momentum we had to catch. If it would have been missed, it would have not come so quickly again. He said, he was speaking of the blühende Landschaften in Osten. And through the euphoria, at least from my point of view, at that time I thought, well, West Germany was doing well, why should East Germany not do well as much as West Germany? And today we come to the understanding that also before the war, there were areas which were more prosperous and areas which were less prosperous. There were areas where there was only agriculture and there were areas where there was more industry. And I think this is something which today has to be understood, that Germany has different areas and there will not be a possibility to have everything even.
I really realized that so many things in life, especially in art, and I really do consider writing and art, is that nothing is ever really done. I mean, obviously we have a final product and it's great and complete and everything, but there's just so many different ways that we could have done this, and reading over and over, you start to realize those different ways. You start to notice things like, oh, you know, and so it's kind of like with any form, it's hard, because I think that's always going to be a struggle.
I guess it also makes you think about your own history, and you always accept things, or at least I always accept things the way they are. That the way it is the way that it always was, and the way it will always be. And hearing the stories, and this complete contrast between your childhood and mine. You said that you never thought that you'd be able to go up to Uni through the Menenberger Gate. Now I live in Sweden, but I can even come from Berg or watch a movie in Mitte. And just to see that change rather than continuity is the rule, and that my life tomorrow could completely change. And the fact that I live in United Berlin in a safe political situation, that's not my birthright, that's history, and I can change it and you can change it, and that tomorrow everything could just completely go around, and it did for you guys. And that was really eye-opening, because